Hello. Well, welcome back. Yep. So we've had an up and down sort of start to this stream, but we are finally on a roll. We are streaming, we are recording, and I'm here to talk to you about Off Grid. If this is your first time popping into the stream or watching one of these videos later on YouTube, then Off Grid is a stealth hacking game where you essentially manipulate data belonging to the NPCs in order to get them out your way and stealth through the levels. But Off Grid is quite interesting from multiple angles, partly because it's extensively moddable using the Unity engine. So owners of Off Grid can essentially get hold of the tools, download all the dev tools that we have built within the Unity engine and a free copy of Unity Personal Edition, and then they can make their own levels very easily. And that's what this dev stream kind of likes to cover. I think this is episode 8 that we've done so far, and I like to dip into what I've been working on this week and show people a few little tricks. I try and cover a new element of the modding API each time, and I know that there's a few folks who mod along with us. If you're one of those lucky people, or well, people that we're lucky to have that backed our Kickstarter at the first access level and above, then you have a copy of Off Grid's sort of early, or what we're calling first access, which should give you access to the modding tools and the ability to follow along and make some mods. So if that's you, then please do come and mod along with me. Today I'm going to look at how to set up some notifications and modals for if you want to teach people, your players of your mod, where to go or what to do. There are a bunch of different ways of doing this in Off Grid. There are the kind of UI, kind of operating system modals. Hey, why don't I'll open up a copy of the game so that we can have a look at this in the flesh. I think that's probably the best bet. So if you just bear with me, I'm going to close down a few things and open up a few others. I'm going to open up Grid, obviously. Steam, because Steam Broadcast didn't work. I'm going to wait for Unity to open up. So, this should be all good. Got some interesting stuff going on here. This is going to be an interesting stream. What I usually do is I stream exactly how modders would work with the game, and that usually includes me launching a copy of the game through Steam and the level kit tools through Unity. This time round, I'm going to cheat slightly because there's been a few fixes that haven't gone out in an update to the build yet, that are only in our mainline project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of sudo work with this stuff. You might say, how am I going to do this? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump out Republic windows from our mainline project as if it was the game. So without further ado, let me get some screen up for you to see. So this is Off Grid. This is the level kit side of Off Grid, which is the Unity toolset that we've been building. It's interesting. This is a level that Soph, the artist at s01ep08, and I have been knocking up this week or so. It's one of the early levels that you get dropped into that helps to tutorialize a few things that you're doing. And so, yeah, I was going to cheat. So there's this second Unity project over here that I keep on a monitor to the left of me. That essentially has all of our kind of foundations in that you get to play around with as a modder, and then the level kit is kind of gameplay and scripting and assets, and that's where I as the designer and Sophie as the artist do all of our work, whereas Pontus while he's writing systems and Steve while he's writing AI, they're over in this mainline project. And what we do for the modding to work is we have this level kit tool to the right hand side of your project, and I'm just seeing this is squashed. That's interesting. We have this level kit tool. I will just make everything fit 16 by 9 fully for you. There we go. Otherwise, you're not going to see everything, are you? Where was I? I was saying this level kit tool essentially can network to your copy of the game that you have in Steam and push, if this was your mod, push it up to the build of the game, and you get to play around with and test your mods that way. Obviously, while we're doing our kind of own development of it, we do that same trick, but to this project. I've just done that stupid thing of shaking and making everything disappear. I hate that. Back again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to peel off this window. If Unity will pay attention to me. There we go. And I'm going to pretend that this is the Steam copy of the game. Pop it there. Like this. Yeah. So at the minute that's just a blank game window, but what we'll do is hit play on this Unity project to the left. And this is essentially what you do as a modder. A few of you will have watched previous episodes and seen that. You can see this. It's in the dev window. It's a little broken, but it's fine in a build, I promise. So level kit tool. We search for game. It finds the game here, and then we hit start networking to connect. And all being well, it will load our level kit level in, and there we are. Just need to plug in my controller properly, otherwise it's not going to work. There we go. So here we are. Frame rate is little buggy because there's so much software going on, 2 copies of Unity, OBS and whatever else, but essentially this is what you'd be able to do. This is not me showing you some dev side trick, other than the fact that what window it's playing it through. That's what modders do in Off Grid. They literally press that little connect network and your copy of the game is going to play your mod. So here we can test, does that interaction work?
There.
Yep, it does. Intercom works, it gives me a front door key. That front door key, let's turn the helper app off because it gets in the way sometimes. That front door key works, so that's all working. Take a little wander up here. obviously there's some sort of duplication of music in the background. I should probably just, pardon me, keep hiccuping. Let me just get rid of that. It's a lot better, isn't it? So, yes, back to this. Anyway, this is the level we're working on, and the bit that I'm working on currently is actually some of the sort of tutorialization stuff. The AI is getting stuck around the corner there because I broke it earlier, but might be able to get the AI to do a funny dance for us if I find it in the right place. So yeah, here we go, kind of walking around the offices, and we happen upon the room that we need to come to. And this is supposed to trigger some audio events and some other interesting effects. And what I've done as a little placeholder while I'm kind of drafting the level out is just throw up a modal here. So that requires me to accept. And I've got a text message that's come through in the right hand corner, and I've got an objective that's been completed. So figured that's a kind of whole bunch of things that I can talk about. But all overlap. So, you know, here's the task that's been completed. The message doesn't show up in the conversation system because it's legacy, and that will all get messed about with and changed. But yeah, that's where we're at with that stuff. So I thought you might be interested in, yeah, me going through kind of modals and maybe touching on conversations. It looks like that's just a nav mesh thing. So here's the thing. I mean, like, well, kind of.
Oi, come back here.
Yeah. So she's gonna do a crazy dance, which is temporary and a bit of a placeholder. But yeah, that's that AI character. Happy to see us, so I'll leave her doing.
I didn't know you were supposed to be in today. Big girl working you
I
out
am.
too, huh?
I am supposed to be in today. So yeah, she's doing a little computer work. There you go, typing away a little bit far from the computer, but that's all good. Yes, quite well. So, how do we set this modal stuff up that I was talking about? Then that's the question, isn't it? Well, I kind of did a down low on how the mission scripting system works. Really quick first pass sort of like plan view of it for people on one of the first streams, and this time we're going to dig into a couple of elements of it. So let's stop this. We can stop the build as well. Essentially, this all comes down to mission objectives, really, and mission objectives are kind of at the core of your mission, obviously. Kind of goes without saying when you say it out loud, but you know, to the uninitiated and those who don't necessarily know the structure of how a mission script works, it might be easy to miss. So I'm going to show you where we need to be looking. This is the wrong project, isn't it? We need a different one. Just a second. Here we go, this will do. This should be fixed. There we go. Let's get rid of that. These are the droids I was looking for. So, this is AI stuff. This will be fun at some point to show you all, but I think we'll leave that for tonight. The scope of it's kind of massive. So, a quick review of how the scripting works. I suppose first and foremost, you've created your mod, and it will give you the ability to fill in the title and this, that, and the other. For us, that's like level name workplace, Joe's workplace. It's in the financial district. Its location's workplace. You can then open the mission script like that. It shows you where the mission script is, pops it open. It's a pretty handy little button, that one. Doesn't seem to have opened it though. Or you can open a level folder, and that will show you exactly where the level folder for the mod you're working on is, and that gives you all the folders for all the other interesting stuff, content especially, characters, agents, etc. I've got some duplication here that I need to get rid of. But yeah, and save level info changes if you were so inclined. So that's how you get to all this stuff. But let's say you already knew that. We don't need that. It would open up your mission, right? And in your mission, well, it defines everything, and we kind of we want it all in one place. It makes for a huge script, but you'll learn to jump around these things fairly easily because they're in some pretty well defined tables, and we can close all these down. So I wonder why that isn't collapsible in the same way. Objectives. That is odd. It should be, really should. No, I don't know why. That should be collapsible. It isn't. So we'll just close down each of the objectives instead. That's a huge one that needs dealing with. Comments are all expandable. That's half of the problem. But you can start to see, I started to talk about objectives. Just in reading some of these, you get a bit of a flow of the mission come up already. So there's your objectives. These would be nice if these were all out of the way. They go chat to Smedley, find package, flash phone, distract secretary, find NS letter, get to roof, place mesh node on roof, upload files, and that's your level. That's the basic flow of your mission. So if you think about this from the perspective of drafting out what you're up to, you can literally just write the objective names first and then come back to filling them all out. Checkpoints is slightly more subtle. Devices is a thing. That's just where you name all the devices. And there's all the setup mission stuff, which is more complex and isn't collapsible in the same way because it's not tables in the same way. Yeah, you define the characters, the items in your inventory, the data in the level, the networks that things need to connect to, the objectives, and the devices. And that's how that all works. What we're going to look at is this chat to Smedley objective. Now, objectives all have to tie to mission objects, and mission objects are literally just any object in a scene that has been given a mission object component, and that is a trigger here, or a hackable device here, or a little pink hand, an interactable device here. The thing they all have in common is they all have a mission object script, and somewhere in this drop down they've been defined as a trigger, an interaction, a spawn, a hackable, a generic. So you saw that we dropped ourselves in the lobby earlier. Maybe we want to put a spawn point in for testing this area more easily. So the first thing you do is you create, like let's delete this one and go from scratch. So game object, create empty. That's what we want there. Sometimes Unity it can be hard to see exactly where something is, but this is probably in roughly the right spot now. Yeah. So you've got your empty game object. It's in the scene in front of you somewhere useful. Let me just check that this is all coming through all right. Yeah, seems to be. If you've got any questions as we're going along, please do chime in. Welcome to ask questions in the Discord as well. I'll try and keep monitoring both. So basically, you create an empty game object. If you've used Unity before, you'll know about game objects. But it's essentially everything in Unity is a game object. Every script that you write, or every component that you write, requires being on a game object. And that's that. So we're going to add a component called a mission object. This is a kind of custom script that we've written for you to mod with slightly more ease. You add a mission object, and we're going to make this a spawn object. It'll go to mix, it'll take generic off. And lo and behold, the gizmo turns to a little green man. We're going to hit E. Is it E or R for rotation? I can't remember. I think it's E. And put this that's facing in the right direction for us. Don't really want to drop from that kind of a height necessarily, so we'll move this spawn point a bit lower to the floor. And then we'll give this a name, and as you saw, the other one was called Joe's Office Spawn, and it's a pretty logical name, so we'll stick with that. Spawn. So Joe's Office Spawn. And then this is how this stuff directly relates to the sort of Lua scripting side of things, because any mission object with a name is something that you can reference in Lua, essentially. So just so that we don't get any typos, we're going to copy that rather than rewrite it somewhere else. We're going to pull up our mission script, and the first thing we do is we go to the characters area, and we've got Joe, which is our player, prefab player, character type player, and he's going to play a spawn, but we actually, because we're testing this, we're going to go up to Joe's Office Spawn just to save ourselves a bit of time. I'm going to hit save. I need to check that file out, so I will. In version control, so give me a sec. There we go. Perforce, beautiful. That's the wrong project. Assets. I've just realised I'm doing this without any music on in the background, which I don't usually do. Let's put this back on. I feel a little bit less nervous. Here we go. Levels. Workplace. you won't have to worry about this because you're not necessarily using version control for your mods. If you are, then props to you. You are pretty well organised. So there we go. Save. What's next? Well, testing it, of course. Like seeing whether he goes to the correct mission object. So what we'll do. So just moving it doesn't do enough. The way that the modding tools are set up is essentially this project pushes asset bundles to the game as if it was a patch. So we have to rebuild the asset bundles if you have a physical change. If you have a Lua change, a code change, it actually doesn't need rebuilding. It doesn't take very long to, but basically any geometry change, any new game object added, any component added to a game object requires you to rebuild those asset bundles. So that's what we're doing here. Yeah. Come on, asset bundles! So it's doing it, I promise. It goes blank. It's not deleted it just goes blank while it's doing it. See, the level kit tool is waiting. Little does it know that actually we're waiting and it's working. There we go. So that's the asset bundles built. It's just compiling now. You can get this build button's blanked out and you get this lovely little scrolling circle of death. And that is ready. As you can see, you know, takes a good 20-30 seconds to do that stuff. So you want to make your kind of asset changes in job lots to be a bit more efficient. Hit play, go to the networking tab on here, close off our My Music, nice. Side, search for game, start, grab this, and we should spawn by that office, all being well. And hey, presto, we have. So, isn't that good? This is where we say, yeah, that's great. It is good. It means that you can test your levels more easily, more efficiently. You know, you can drop yourself places. We will go into more detail as to how that fits into objectives, and you basically end up kind of needing to create save games and then jump to save games. Yep, so stop there. So now that we're in the right location to test something, let's have a look at how you set up some triggers that create a modal message, like I was saying before, that fills something in. So you can set up triggers in multiple ways. The most simple way. Just turn this audio down in my ears. Is literally in the mission objects list here at the bottom. You can just set up a trigger that doesn't do anything to do with an objective, or you can have it trigger an objective or complete an objective, you know, by getting to a certain location that's behind a locked door or whatever else, and do all the logic in the objective. It can work either way, and it really doesn't matter one way or the other which you do. One way might suit you more, depending on what you're trying to do. Pardon me, it's a little late here in the UK if you're elsewhere. So yeah, but the simplest thing that you can do is set up a modal, and they're kind of cool, and they're pretty easy to do. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how you set up this trigger. So let's set up a new one. That is going to be called something else. Basically, the next thing you do is create an empty game object as before. Throw it up here somewhere. Add, you guessed it, mission object. Set that this time to trigger instead of spawn. Trigger only once, we only want it to work once. Fix, we've got all this nice validation stuff. Fix the fact that it's missing a box collider, yes, why not? Put it into a location that's actually useful. Might be good as well. Okay. So you might use this to change audio or something along those lines. We should be able to do that, but we're going to do this one just with the modal because it's a nice, simple, visual, easy thing to see. So our game object is going to be called mod test trigger. And we're going to jump in here and we're going to create a mission object. Mission objects table. Yep. Then we're going to call it what we just called that, which is mod test trigger. And that basically connects the two. Then our next command is trigger enter, and on start interacting if it was an interactable instead. Make that into a function. So you might want to do like below and put in an if statement to make sure it's only the player, for instance, that sets this trigger off, or you might want to make it set off by an AI walking into it. In this instance, well, yeah, let's make it so that it's just a player, just for the kind of hygiene of it all. So if name equals player dot name, then no, and then we put in our logic. Obviously end needed there to close this off, and another end to close that function off. So, and then in here is where we put our interesting stuff. Basically, if it's the player, do stuff. So I mean, we've got an example of a modal down here. Modals are kind of fun in multiple ways because they can have all kinds of stuff. We are going to create a new modal. But it's a lure table again. It has different types of hints in it, but mod test modal. Mod test modal. There's our table. A mod test modal, what does it need? Well, it needs a message type, and that basically gives you what size of modal we want. And that one we saw before was a medium one, which is, you know, you'll see in kind of errors and warnings as well as other bits and pieces. We're actually going to do a large one because they're more interesting. So large. Header. This is the text in the header. That can be this is to test your modal. Commas after everything, because that's how Lure works. Message, the main body of the modal. That equals lorem ipsum Hank the Planet. Right, this is one of the nice bits. So image path, you can not put an image in, and if you don't want an image in, I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe literally just an empty string is sufficient for it to be happy. Confirm text. So what do you want to be on the button that people have to write? So to click or to hit A to close that window. So we're going to say close me in this instance. Close. Remember commas at the end of everything. That's it. That is how this works for a modal. You need to write the modal, and then you need to call it. So UI dot show modal message, and then the name of the modal, and ours was mod test trigger. No, it wasn't mod test modal, is what it was. And that's that. Yes, that's it. We can put an image in here. I think the path is relative to the content folder. Don't know for sure. We can test that in a second, but let's just check that this is working. And what it will do is it will put up the off-grid logo in the place of the image instead. So hit save, and then we go to our networking tab. And because it was only, no, it wasn't only Lure changes we put in this. So we'll build those level changes. Please check the validation window. Okay, there's an incorrect layer. There you go. So it needed this mission object to be on the mission objects layer. It's going to fix that for me. We will. Still confused. That's interesting. That's something else to worry about, but don't worry about that right now. Right here, that's the build changes stuff that we're doing now, and like I said, you've got kind of probably 30 seconds of waiting around, which in this instance will probably just include me mumbling for a moment. Shall we let's check the stream, see if we've got anyone asking any questions or saying hi. Say hi if you're watching. There's a few people. Say hi in the chat. No. Well, don't worry, it's okay to be shy and a lurker, but this is always more fun if you say hi. Oh snap, there we go. Hey Tim. Cool. You win a prize of being the name that goes into this modal then, because one of the things that I do like to do is whoever chats to me gets to go in the mod that I'm making. So this is s01ep08 mod. Yeah. Anything to go in the message? Any ideas? Any thoughts? We can say hi to someone. Say, hang on. Oh snap! Who are we going to say hi to? What message is going to go in? Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, we'll just say hi. Oh snap now. If you come up with something, just say. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to test this little lure change. Let's give a shout out to Sarah. Yeah, there we go. Sounds good. Shout out Sarah. Cool. Right. So essentially, there's our lure changes. It's pretty small. That's all it's done is created a mission object that is going to essentially execute this function if the player is the one who walks into the trigger. This is at the moment not tied to any objective or anything along those lines. It's literally just a game object that has a function. It's sort of a game object in its simplest form in Off Grid. So yeah, we save that. Then we go to the networking tab, we search for game, we hit start, and we pull up the build, and that should just give us the ability to walk over here, and there we go. Shout out to Sarah, this is s01ep's mod, and close me. And that's how you set up a mission object, a trigger within Off Grid. So the other thing that I was going to kind of touch on, which we'll cover definitely in more detail down the line as we go, and that's one of the hardest things about these streams, is trying to kind of keep them concise enough, because we could roll off in all kinds of directions from this point. But for the sake of simplicity, we're not going to. We're going to stick to the notion of moving this into a mission objective. So we essentially have looked at the fact that there's mission objects down here, but a little further up we sort of talked about the fact that we've got all these objectives here, and the first one is chat to Smedley. We can expand all of them out again. So no, we don't actually have to. But essentially, you have set up mission here. This adds the characters, networks, zone keys, all that kind of stuff, and then start mission. And this is where you set your UI up. And there's just loads of stuff that I'm going to skip over here. You don't need to worry about it too much. It will get covered at some later date, and a lot of it is generated for you. But as you can see, the last thing in start mission is start objective, chat to Smedley. So we're going to do the same. We're going to do mission. God, it's too late and I'm just not typing. Mission start objective. Mission dot objective, and we obviously haven't made a new objective yet, but we're going to. We're going to make a new objective called s01ep's objective. Yeah. So let's just, for the sake of ease, copy that name so that we don't misspell it anywhere, and we pop back up to the objectives here, and above chat Smedley, just because of keeping things in chronological order in your script makes things easier to find later on. Hit V, s01ep's objective. I'm going to make a table that is based around that. So the name for the objective is going to display in the notifications, and so objectives are obviously important for your mission structure, but naming them in a way that is both easy to follow logically, but then is going to be useful in the fiction you're setting up for the player is also another thing that you have to do, because these objectives are automatically pushed into the to-do list for your character in the main menu, and in the notifications that come up when you complete them. So, you know, like all the stuff that sort of gives your player some direction is automated through literally just filling this table out. So the name of this is going to be an objective needs to be named in a way of something that needs to be done. So it needs to have, you know, it needs to be an action in some sense. So we want to complete s01ep's mod. Let me just check the stream, see if anyone's any questions. No, not currently. Cool. Complete s01ep's mod is the name there. Remember, comma at the end of everything, otherwise it breaks. Description. The description is going to be follow the path to s01ep's trigger, comma, active. Oh right, so yeah, you can set it up to be active by default as well if you don't want to set it up in the setup mission. If you've got if you've got loads of stuff that you want to be starting as active, you could just set this as true, but we're gonna set this as false and set it up in the mission setup. Active, visible, true. Yes, so visible is down to whether it's going to show up in the UI task list for your player to see what they have to do. So we want this to be visible. True. Completed, false, obviously, because we want people to complete it. We don't want it to be already completed. Hints. This is fun. So, a couple of these things are deprecated. Hints isn't. Do I want to go into hints? Basically, this is a way of setting up some hints at the beginning of your objective to help the player, but also we've got the modal for the completion of it. Mind you, the modal is for the completion of it. So yeah, let's set up a hint. There's probably a good example of a hint in one of the other objectives. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, essentially, they are just strings. There aren't any good examples. Messages, they're all messages. Yeah. Okay. If my memory serves me correctly, and it might not, but if it does, then essentially the hint that we're going to put in here just has to be a string. And you know, this is where you get some interesting stuff, because you can use some tags to change the color of stuff. And this is all going to change a bit because we're going to integrate something called TextMesh Pro properly, and then you'll be able to throw images in as well as other things. So, but for this, let's say the hint is walk upstairs. No, turn right, because we're not even walking upstairs, are we? We'll turn right. Mate. And you could say, you know, press A to do X or whatever else, you know, press Y to crouch, whatever. Messages is going to change, so I'm going to leave that out. Basically, it allows you to send a text message in the right hand corner as a notification, but the Conversations app has changed that, and so that currently exists, might not later, so we'll just skip over it for now. Hit save, and now that essentially gives us all the basics there for this objective. Oh, what I haven't done. Well, actually, how did that onStart function turn up? Don't think that's my mistake. Oh, I don't know. Let's just. Oh right, yeah. That is fine. Yeah, it's me messing about in here. Yes, of course. Right, hints. You can tell it's getting late over here in the UK. My brain is not working as well as it should be. Turn right, mate. So we do that. And you know, yes. So we want this hint that's listed there to be sent at the start of this objective. So we will go on start. And that's a function, so define it as such. There. In the onStart function, we are going to show the next hint, which is mission, I think, mission. Dot send hint. this works. I think it just sends the object. Yeah, I think I just have to name the objective. I don't think I have to name anything else. So that's probably mission. Objectives. That's this objective. So osnaps. That was right. Come on, osnaps objective. This bit might not work, but we'll see. You know, on completion is the only other thing that you need to do, because if you complete this objective, you want something else to occur, and it's usually start the next objective. So we go on completed, and that is a function as well. And we're going to start the next objective, and we're just going to cheat here. We'll just copy this one, which is, let's end this so we don't forget. That is going to go mission dot mission, and like you're basically naming tables here. So you know, this is the mission table, which is exactly, I know this is the mission table. This entire script is the mission table because it has mission at the top of it. Then the objectives table, as it's suggesting here, dot objectives dot Yep. And for a little more fun, we will. Right. Well, that's what I was going to show you. Is essentially then we can take all the logic from that trigger, which was here somewhere, wasn't it? Mod test trigger. This is osnaps mod. We can just take all of that out now. And dump it in the uncompleted part of our objective, so that it all happens when you've completed it. And you know, you'd like it. That's all fairly straightforward. You might actually take the if statement out. You probably would. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to leave the if statement in, so that your trigger is making sure that it's the player that walks through in order to complete this objective, because you don't want an AI walking through it and completing the objective for your player and them not knowing anything about it. So we are just going to pull out the actual modal and pop that up in our objective. Osnaps objective uncompleted. Probably want to start the next objective as the last thing it does, so give that a bit of space. Dump that in there, and it's going to create the modal and show it, and then it's going to start the next objective. And let's make it call out some sound, because we were messing about with sound earlier. There you go. There's a sound event that we can nick, and we can make it happen from the spawn point that we were at. So, in fact, why don't we just change them? Yeah, that's what we'll do. We just go again back up to our osnaps objective. We would write sound.trigger event, then put the sound event in. There is no comprehensive list of all the sound events in Off Grid yet, because they are all being made still. So bear with us there. You can find some of them in some of the mission scripts. There may be some moddable sound bank stuff that we can do with Wise, that you can put your own sound events in. We'll see. That at the very least there will be a large library of generic reusable sounds for things. So intercom lobby, we're actually going to change that to the spawn point, which I don't know whether I can remember what the spawn point was called. Let's just find it quick. Joe's office spawn. Because it's a mission object, you can basically get it to do whatever. In this instance, we're just going to get it to be the position for this sound. Hit save, and then basically we want to set the completion of this objective up in the trigger. So where we just pulled everything out of mod test trigger, the next thing that we're going to do is just add in mission dot, I think it's complete objective, yeah. And then the table for the objective. So that's mission dot objective. Oh, what was the objective called? osnaps objective, something? Is that right? osnaps objective. And we're nearly there, folks. osnaps objective. And so now this trigger, instead of having logic in it, well, it has logic in it. And instead of it having all of the kind of composite bits and bobs that you want to do in it, it just completes the objective, and the objective controls all that stuff, and that sort of gives you a final level of control over what you want people to see and what the knock-on effect is, and so that people make the right progression at the right time. So we save that, and now we hit start on networking, and we pull up the game, and you should see our hint pop up in this. Oh no. Chat Smedley. Alright, I've left something out. Line 192. Yeah. Right. 192. 192? 192. Doesn't like something here. Objectives correct. Action. closed off properly. Shouldn't need to do this, but we'll see. Ah, guess what? Missing comma. Always. Right. So that's all present and correct. Now we should be able to hit start, and all being well in the world, we're going to. Oh, no, really? 184. 184. Alright. We'll see. Not 100% certain about this, whether the modal needs to go outside of the function or not. Might not like it. I've done this before, haven't I? Let's find out. Let's start again. S01ep08 cannot convert table to string. Yeah, okay. Maybe doesn't like throwing the modal into there. May well be that I can actually place that inside of uncompleted. Let's see. Could just be getting tired here and not thinking this through properly. Sounds like we've got another error. Table to string. Okay. Yeah, it's not liking that. Well, for the sake of ease and the fact that it's getting late, what I'm going to do is just check this because it's going to bother me otherwise. Definitely done it in the newspaper office mission script previously, so let's just look at an objective from there. Uncompleted function. Conversation. End message. Mode. Okay, just move UI show message outside of on completed. Apparently. It would seem. Yeah, it's just in the root of that objective, so that's what we're gonna try here. So the table stays in on completed. The table doesn't have a comma after it. It's got its own sort of functions in here, but they're not really worry. And that's the end of on completed with a comma and then modal. Thanks for playing modal function. Yeah, okay, it calls. Thanks for playing modal. Yeah. Okay, so we'll make a function that it can call, which is it's kind of an interesting nesting of it all. But that's Lua for you, so let's pull up our script. Apologies if I'm sort of not really giving you a huge amount of detail as I've worked this out. It's been a little late, but part of learning to mod off grid is getting familiar with Lua, which has its own quirks as a language. Many of them good. But right, so essentially, what we're going to do here is outside of onCompleted, the function we're going to create a function called modal. That function is just going to have show modal message in here. End, not send. Table we're going to put back in on completed, doesn't need comma, end does. Oh no, that's fine, just in the wrong place. It's going there. And I think that will work. Oh, we need to call this modal function in onCompleted. So just double check how that's being done through. It's got a callback. I don't want it in a callback though. Let's see. I think let's see. I think that'll work. Find out. part of the conversation. There'll be a way of doing this. It's just my brain not. I mean. Alright, that ought to work. I mean, basically that's going to stop our modal from showing up. So what we're going to do is we're going to revert to our earlier way of doing this. I might try working this out tomorrow, but I'm not going to do it tonight because it's 20 past midnight, mate. It's time for a nap. Comment this out. Comment that out. We're going to move our modal. Copy it. We'll keep hold of our little modal because it's nice to have a modal. That's going to go back into the trigger. Is it UI dot modal message. Oh yeah, it's just the name of it. Mod test modal. And so now what that's going to do is, when you trigger that, it's going to throw up the modal for us, and it's going to complete the objective. And as it completes the objective, it should then, when we find it, come round here, play the voiceover greeting, and start the next objective. Yeah. And sorry, that was a bit of a roundabout way of explaining it, but that's then going to set up all the right notifications in the UI for us, and this, that, and the other. So I'll point that out as we test that. Hit start. Right. Isn't it? It doesn't like my hint. Yeah, I can't remember what goes in the hints. Let's try uncommenting this modal then and see whether that. Oh, I can't remember. We're just going to stick to. I've basically tried to make this more complex than I needed to demonstrate what we're looking at. So I'm just going to have a look at it this way. So essentially now, what's going to happen is we're going to have the OSNAP objective. Save that. Trying to find a mission object with name something. Really? What did the console say there? Failed to find mission object intercom lobby. That's interesting. Definitely exists. But that is weird. Oh. There's a mission object right there called intercom lobby. Don't know why it's picked up on that right now, to be honest. Didn't need to. This is what happens when you try and add a few too many things all in one go to your mod without testing them in between, because you get overexcited and want to show off to your streaming audience. I don't know whether I've got the brain to debug it at midnight, to be totally honest. That's been saved. Let's hit start one more time, just so. Oh, hang on. That's so strange. Cheating and looking at the other. put us in the right location. Sorry, I'm cheating and looking over here at the scene view. You can see Joe, the character, kind of moving around doing his thing. I mean, we could basically what the process for anyone who hasn't done this before, the process for debugging changes that you've made when something was working not so long ago is actually kind of fairly straightforward, and it's quite banal. You just start commenting out the things that you've put in and not tested properly. So we'll take out the sound trigger event as well, and then literally all we're doing with the onCompleted function is starting the next objective. There's the definition of the objective, there's what happens when it starts. And we are leaving the trigger itself to put in its modal, which all looks fine. Complete objective there. Save that. We will build the level in case there's something silly that's gone on. Compiling. Okay. Try this now then. Search for game. Start. Copy the game. 0%. This looks. This is an odd bug to have jumped in, because this looks like it. We don't have any lure errors now. It is clear on play. Stop and start again. Could not find setting systems. That's an error we are aware of. Start. Load of debug stuff. Could not find mission object intercom lobby. Value at 480. Let's have a look at what that is. There is an object called intercom model though, that's the problem. It's right here. It's got mission objects on it. So, related issue must be. It shouldn't have a problem with two objectives starting. We'll cancel that out. Mission objects don't need to be in the table. Stand alone. This mission object. I think something's bugging out, but it's not the mortals. I'm gonna do the handy old stop and start again. Let's just have had the build running in the background for a while, so let's start by just trying to start play mode again on that. Is the game up again? So, search for game, it's found it, hit start. Go back to this window. Well, that's loading again now, so. Right, yeah, okay. Load of debugging that we didn't need to do because we're going to just turn things on and off again. Okay, so we've gotten our stuff come up here. The thing I was going to show you is that that's now all in an objective, and the task that we have is complete osnaps mod as the current task. Wow, it's taken ages to get around to showing you this. It shouldn't have. This is a fairly quick and easy thing. I just did a few too many things at once. So we're going to walk through there. Osnaps mod, shout out to Sarah, close me. Fatal error doesn't like 498. 498. It doesn't like the completion of that objective. effect of that. Spell it differently, isn't it? Stupid. No. Oh, maybe. No, that's spelled the same. But I think we're going to wrap up there because it's actually shown you the basics I wanted it to. As in, it's completed that objective. That's now in there. Oh no, it hasn't completed that objective. Why are you doing this? There is this sort of OCD part of me that wants to just power through and try and get this done, but it's not going to make for a particularly further interesting stream. And I think my kind of tired brain is having a bit of a hard time getting to the bottom of a couple of these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave it there. Luckily, there are a couple of nice things that you have learned along the way here. So they are setting up mission objects, setting up a spawn for the character, and then setting up an objective, although we've got a couple of syntax issues here that I think would be probably pretty easy to track down in the morning when my eyes are open properly. But how to set up an objective and how it's completed and what the completion terms are. So there's actually quite a lot to have crammed in there. I hope you've enjoyed it. I'm, obviously slightly disappointed in the fact that we had to do so much debugging in the middle of that, and part of it was just me not being able to see the wood for the trees. But that is sometimes what programming is like, especially doing it on a live stream. So basically, let me know how you get on with some of this. Drop me a line in the Discord, leave some ideas or thoughts on that Trello board that is essentially our kind of first access testing suggestions and requests board. You can find that in the Discord. And yeah, I'll look forward to seeing you next week when hopefully I'll have some of this stuff a bit further along. So yeah, remember to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. Make sure that you wishlist Off Grid, and have a good rest of your evenings if you're in a time zone that allows you to have a rest of your evening. And if you're like me in Europe, then go get some sleep. What are you doing up? And I'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much. Bye.